Alrighty, folks. Are you folks ready to do this? I'm excited. Today's gonna be great. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome back to Adobe Live. I'm really excited about today's challenge. My name is Voodoo Val, and I've got a meme for you today. I've got. Thank you for the coffee, Danny. I appreciate it. So I know that you guys know that I am from Northern California, but for the purpose of this challenge, this morning and this morning only, I am from West Philadelphia. Born and raised on the playground is where I spent most of my days. All right? That may confuse some people who don't know what I'm talking about. For those of you who are familiar with that particular phrase, that is what we're doing today. Danny's like, ah! Now that's a soundbite. Please no, Tim. Please don't do that. Welcome in, everybody. I see so many familiar faces in the chat. Jennifer Cowell, Sam Peterson, Tim Mobest, Sig, Danny, Ted, Noor, Mia, General Kenobi. Hello there. Liz Vandenberg. It's good to see you. Greetings from Holland. Greetings. Thank you for coming to hang out. Just got back from Mount Shasta, up in the snow. That's amazing. Mount Shasta is a beautiful place. I've been there many times. Froja, it's good to see you. And Susan just made it awesome. All right, let's kind of dive into what we have planned for today. For those of you who are watching over on Behance, thank you so much. If you are over on YouTube, however, please come over to behance.net/live because that is where I am reading the chat. If you're looking around in the YouTube chat wondering where the heck are all these people that Voodoo Val is saying hello to, they're over on Behance. They are not in the YouTube chat. There are tons of people hanging out and watching today, just not so many over there. So, Chris, good to see you. Been a while since I joined a live from Adobe. Daniel Lars, welcome in. It is good to see you. Thank you so much for coming to hang out. Did you do a lot of chilling, perhaps some maxing, relax it all cool? Yeah. Yep. And then a couple of guys who were up to no good started making trouble in my neighborhood. I got in one little fight. My mom got scared and said, "You're moving with your auntie and uncle in Bel Air." Okay, so I'm gonna pan over to the challenge page and let you guys know what the heck I'm talking about. Let me jump over here. So this is the landing page for those of you who have never joined in for these challenges. I hope my music is not too loud. You folks can let me know. Meme it, Chewy. General Kenobi, you are great. David Wood, hello, welcome in. This is where you can find all the information about the challenges and join in with me to basically grab all the starter files and everything so you have all the assets for the challenges. You'll know you're in the right place for this particular video if you see the March 1st to March 26th date up here. And if you scroll down, you can see all of the challenges that have been released thus far. Basically, we don't unlock these challenges until the morning of the challenge, so they're kind of a mystery. We have done a challenge on photo compositing, package design, photo manipulation, special effects, photo editing, and today we are making patterns. You can check the Get Started button out here. If you click that, it's going to send you to a link where you can download the starter file, as I said, so you can snag that. And you can also hit watch videos. If you need to come back and watch how I do this is gonna... You're in Sacramento? You are not in Sacramento. Sacramento is... I just moved from Sacramento in September, but I'm still in the area. It's a beautiful place. You can hit this watch video to come back and watch the playback again if you need to go over the steps. Today is gonna be an interesting kind of round of steps for this challenge because there's going to be some extra. It's not just making patterns. You guys know I like to add some extra stuff in here just in case you need some more steps. So there's going to be more and you may need to relook at it. Okay, so I am going to, real quick, I am just going to dive into Photoshop. That is not the official name of Photoshop. Please do not go into any business meeting saying Photoshop because they will look at you like you're crazy. All right, so this is what the challenge starter file looks like. It says design a tileable pattern inspired by the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air using shapes and pattern preview. I've also got 2 assets in here of images of men in hats, because I thought it would be interesting if we didn't just create patterns, but perhaps we used a displacement map to apply those patterns onto some hats and created some brief mock-ups. And that is kind of going into our challenge theme with this round of trying to create something that is functional and not just making something that's fun to make with an interesting tool. We want to see how we can make this relatable and applicable in the real world. So I am going to show you how to do patterns with the pattern preview, and then we are going to turn it into something that you could send to a client. Do you Photoshop, Danny? I like everyone is trying to spell Photoshop. I appreciate it. Noor and Danny, you guys are amazing. Hello, Dorina. It's good to see you. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you these images that I have because I've posted the free link to all of these images, but I also have a library here where I can show these images off to you. So I've got this one, which I thought was pretty cool, and I've also got this one. And I kind of like this because I think this is fun. It's like sunshiny and there's palm trees, and I don't know if this is in like a Bel-Air kind of area, but it definitely looks like it, and it kind of like goes with the whole theme of what we're doing. So we are going to, I probably use this one because that's the one I like the best. But before we get into using the image, we are going to create a pattern. So I am going to hide this info, and I'm going to show you how I create patterns. So I am first going to start making some interesting shapes. Now, you can do the shapes a lot of different ways. I actually like to use just the regular like shape tool. Let me bump myself over to this other side of the screen so that you can see everything in the shape tools. We have rectangles, we have rounded rectangles, ellipses, triangles, polygons, line tools, and custom shapes. And I think that for the purpose of this pattern, using the triangle tool would actually be really cool. And it's actually not a shape that I usually use, like the rectangle tool or the triangle tool. It's not something that I'm like super familiar with using. I mean, I'm not unfamiliar with the rectangle tool. It's just I usually use an ellipse or a rectangle. So what I'm doing is I am making some triangles, because like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, if you look at it, like I can pull up some reference for you if you folks are not familiar with that style. Fresh Prince pattern. Maybe we can kind of dive into talking about gathering reference and looking at things in order to kind of get a good idea of what you want to create. So let me see. Here we go. So this is what the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air patterns look like. It's like a kind of like a 90s, early 80s like kind of pattern. And it's really, honestly, I think it's really kind of an interesting thing to do, especially if you're not used to making a pattern, because it's kind of something fun that you can create that is not so intricate that it is difficult to put together, especially like this blue one, and there's just so many here that are cool, and some of them are more intricate and more crazy, but I really like it, so that is what we are going to be working on. And you can make whatever kind of pattern you want. In fact, I'm going to change it up a little bit, and I'm going to use like some colors that I really like for this. So I'm going to turn the stroke off here, and I'm going to see what it might look like if I duplicate and do like kind of an overlay like shadow with this triangle. And then let me like bump these down. And then if I change the color to like kind of soft purples and things, in fact, maybe I'll switch these. Maybe I'll turn this back to like a soft pink, and then maybe I'll turn this one to like a purple. Maybe that's how I will change up this project like for myself and just make it like off colors. I kind of like that. And I'm gonna group these and I'm gonna call this triangle. Cool. And then maybe I'll pick a color for like the background. In fact, one thing is like this off color is actually really nice. Maybe that should be the background color and I should choose like a different color for this triangle. So maybe I'll choose like this orange color. Can I choose this orange color? Hello? I wonder why that stayed. Oh, the fill. There we go. So maybe I'll change this orange color and I'll like kind of overlap them less uniform, just to, made an extra one there, just to kind of like make them a little more interesting. And then maybe I'll change the background to that pink. So let me come over here to the background. I'm going to grab my paint bucket tool, and I am going to kind of drop that. Yeah. I like that. Okay. So I've got like kind of an overlappy triangle kind of thrown in here. Now let's do something like with the pen tool, because what some of you may be wanting to do for your patterns is kind of make it a little bit less like perfect shapes, and that's totally cool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the pen tool, and something I can do here is I press P on my keyboard to grab the pen tool, by the way, and I'm gonna grab and just start like clicking and adding curves, something like this, okay? And I'm clicking and I'm dragging out, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold Alt and I'm gonna grab this bracket and I'm gonna drag it out here, so that it doesn't round my corner, and I'm gonna click to make my next point, and then I'm going to kind of bring this out here. You see how I'm just like, I'm clicking and dragging, and I'm dragging this out to really make it like kind of a nice squiggle. I'll click out here, bring that out there, and then I'll click Alt and bring this bracket over here, and then click there to stop it. And that is how I create like a really nice, like kind of like wiggly, wavy shape. And then I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna say make a shape. And it made a shape out of that color that I had, but I want to change this color. So I will double click and I'm gonna come over, and actually maybe I can click my shape tool. Yeah. So I'm going to turn the stroke off of this, and I am going to select, maybe we will fill it with like a green. Yeah, cool. So now I have like a green wiggle that's very reminiscent of this like kind of style, and I am going to duplicate that with Control J, and I'm going to hold Shift and click both of these layers so that I can group them with Control G, and I'm going to double click to rename this group Squiggle, because I want to have that separated on its own, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to find something else to fill this with. In fact, maybe we'll leave this top one green, and maybe we'll change this one to like a charcoal color, and then we'll Control T, and I'm going to use my my arrow keys to kind of move that out. There we go. Adds kind of an interesting squiggle. And then maybe we will start adding like just some nice circles and stuff to this. Another thing that I want to do is to turn on pattern preview. So if you go into view and you select pattern preview, what that does is I want to say, okay. What that does is if I zoom out here, it has a box around my pattern, but it shows all of like the background of my Photoshop, as I zoom in and zoom out, is the pattern. So I can really keep an eye on, you know, what I'm creating, what I'm making here. So that looks pretty good. I'm gonna grab a ellipse shape, and I'm gonna continue to start dragging out some shapes here, and I'm going to change this to maybe a purple. Maybe a purple would be at the forefront here, and I'm going to turn that stroke off, and then I am going to duplicate it with Control J, and I'm going to change the color of this back one to the green, I think, and then Control T to free transform, and then I'm going to use my brackets to bump that over as well, just to give that an interesting little lip. And then I will hold shift and click these layers, Control G to group, and I'm gonna call this dot. Now for the dot I could actually duplicate. So I could, you know, say Control J, and I could start like making this smaller and really throwing this around, maybe over here. And maybe I'll open this and I will turn the green to charcoal, and then maybe I will turn the purple to an orange, which is really cool. Just to kind of give it, like, I'm trying to make it my own and trying to make it something that I would really enjoy. Something else that's kind of interesting to do is like making tileable elements in your pattern. So for example, this squiggle, if I wanted to kind of bring it off the edge of the canvas here, like maybe I want this to be much bigger than I'm showing, I could do it like this, and it's gonna tile it for me. You see how it's like starts to encroach upon here? So it will make a tileable pattern for me out of this. So I can just like kind of throw that there, and maybe I will grab this triangle and kind of move that like so, and then I can just really kind of start to create a very eclectic kind of pattern. We'll make like a bigger circle over here, and then maybe we'll move this dot into like a more interesting place over here, and then maybe we'll rotate this squiggle down just a little bit, and then let's turn this third dot, let's make this bottom circle, let's make that green. Let's make that our green. And then let's make, no, actually, let's make it purple, and then let's make the top, I wonder if we can make the top charcoal. I don't know. We've kind of, like, I only have, like, a certain amount of colors that I chose for it, so I don't know if that looks great, and I don't want to, like, repeat anything, but maybe that's good for now. I have created now a pattern, and I want to define this pattern so that I can use it. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to, let's see, I'm gonna kind of group everything together, Control G, and I'm gonna call this pattern, and I am going to say edit, and I want to define pattern, but what, yeah, right here. So I can say define pattern in edit, which it was kind of behind my camera there, but I'm gonna call this fresh prints pattern. Boom. Okay, now when I open my patterns panel, you can see it's actually sitting in there, and I don't want it in there with the trees, but I'll fix that later. If you don't see your patterns panel, all you have to do is go to window and scroll down until you find patterns right here, and it will open your patterns panel. But now I have a really nice pattern that I can start using, and we're going to, in 6 minutes, we're going to throw it on a displacement map and kind of mock it up on this hat. So what is a displacement map? Why is it important, and why am I showing it to you today? A displacement map is a really excellent way to get an image or a pattern, like today, to mold to the form of any object to make it look like it's really a part of an object. A lot of people will like Photoshop and use blending modes to make it look like somebody has a design on their t-shirt and all that good stuff, and that works, but what you want to do is make it look like those designs are kind of rolling with the waves and the ripples of fabric. And the way you do that is with a displacement map, and I'm going to show you how that is done. So I am going to go to image, adjustments, and black and white to turn this image to black and white. And then I'm going to open up my levels, and I'm going to say Control L to open up my levels panel, and I'm going to kind of make these levels really dramatic, because what I want for this displacement map is the ability to really show like all of this texture right here. So I'm going to say okay on that, and then the last thing I'm going to do is filter blur, and I'm going to put a slight Gaussian blur on it because I don't want it super extra rough. I think we're gonna leave it like that, okay? And then I'm going to Control-Shift-S to save on my computer, and I am going to go into my starter files, and I've already kind of done a test for this, so I think I can do, yeah, like I'm just calling it disp map, so it's a displacement map, and I'm gonna say save. Yes, I'm gonna replace it. So now I have this image that is a displacement map, and I'm gonna come back into libraries and I'm gonna reopen my original image. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is in my layers, I'm gonna come over here and I'm going to apply my pattern. So how am I gonna do that? Well, I'm going to use the object selection tool to select this hat, and I'm gonna come in and clean it up real quick. Forgive me if I'm rushing. I am trying to finish this before we have to take off, because I only want this pattern applied to the hat. I don't want it applied to anything else. So I'm gonna kind of select and remove some things real quick, just so that I can make a nice proper selection around my hat. There we go, and there we go. That's clean enough for me right now. Okay, I am going to Control J and duplicate that hat, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drag this pattern over, and I'm going to release it into the hat. And then I'm gonna double click this, and I'm gonna scale it down. And let's see if I maybe bump it up just a little bit. There we go. I'm gonna change it to like 20. There we go. So we've got a pattern in here. Maybe we can change it to like 15 and see what 15 looks like. Yeah, maybe 15. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select these layers, and I'm going to right click and say convert to smart objects. So now I just have this hat shape here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up to filter, distort, displace, and I am going to say yes, horizontal scale 10. I want it to stretch to fit, and all of this default settings, these default settings are fine. I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to select this displacement map, and you can see it actually just rippled it around. And now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find a blending mode. So once I start flipping through the blending modes, you can really see, if I zoom in, what that did was all of these ripples and things on the hat, it just like warped them to follow it. So I am going to, this one maybe was a little too dramatic, but I'm gonna just go ahead and find, oh, that looks cool. There we go. That actually looks perfect. That looks great. I'm gonna leave it on that. That was a color burn. And even though this is a little dramatic, I think once it is on the color burn blending mode, it actually looks amazing. With the object selection, she just dragged the pattern. Yes, so I selected the hat. I pressed Control J to duplicate that, just the selection of the hat, so I had the hat on a separate layer, and then I just dragged the pattern over the hat, and it just made its own clipping mask to the hat. Yeah, check that out. How cool is that? That's pretty awesome, right? And it's not really that hard. It's a lot of interesting steps, so please check out the the broadcast afterwards if you need to go back and look. But doesn't that look great? I love it. So that's how you create a pattern and then use a displacement map to apply it to an article of clothing. And you could probably send this to a client and say, hey, here's your hat in action. That's all the time that I have for you today, folks. I've got to take off because I don't want to get cut off. But thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this was fun and interesting and informative for you, and I will see you tomorrow morning with another challenge. All right, folks? See you guys next time, and happy designing.